Hello, everybody, and welcome to Write Something Weird. I'm Sophie Stern, and I'm here today with two amazing guests, Ebony and Al. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So, tonight we're going to be talking about short stories. I am primarily a fiction novelist, but I love writing short stories. I think they're really fun, and you can play in a short story world in very different ways than you can with fiction. But I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. Ebony, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about what you like to write?
So I like to describe myself as the Hot Mess Express. I write whatever comes to mind. So my writing is literally all over and the place. I have some short erotica. I have some novellas. I have small town contemporary fantasy, paranormal. Like I said, I'm literally all over the place.
That's cool. We love to hear it. Al, what about you?
I'm Al Davidson, A.L. Davidson. I write genre romance that's horror, sci-fi, cozy, paranormal, monster, Omegaverse, kind of all of it. I mostly stay in the novella and web novel sphere, but I did get most of my publishing start in short stories, so it's exciting.
That's really cool. I really love how many authors have like started in the short story space or just enjoyed spending time there. I feel like short stories can be really fun and also really challenging in some ways. Um, but Al, let's start with you and then Ebony. What's a short story you loved writing?
Oh goodness. I It's funny because a lot of my books actually started out as short stories, so I actually
Okay.
hold a lot of them very close to my heart because that's where most of my novels came from was a short story idea that I couldn't get out of my head. But I'd probably
Wow.
say my favorites are I have a series of sci-fi retellings of fairy tales, and the first one is called Rapunzel. And those have just been very near and dear to my heart, and it's a trilogy that's going to be turned into a novel of like a short story collection, but it was kind of the first one that really took off and it was just a lot of fun to write. It's very, very near and dear to my heart.
You know, I like that. I love it when we have a story that just we connect with it
Mm.
and we like love it. And I think it really says a lot about us as artists to have work that we just adore and we go back to and really enjoy. So that's really cool. Ebony, what about you? It's a story that you loved writing.
I think the short story that I had the most fun writing was Just a Dream. It is a Peter Pan retelling, and I got to have so much fun with it. I actually picked the story up after everybody leaves Neverland, and I kind of put my own little twist on it.
Okay, that's really fun. So I feel like all of us really love fairy tales and
Yes.
fairy tale retellings. For me, it's definitely like Beauty and the Beast is my obsession. I think I've written like four Beauty and the Beast retellings or something like ridiculous. Do either of you have like a favorite fairy tale that you keep coming back to over and over?
I really do like Beauty and the Beast too. I'm a Beauty and the Beast girly as well, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's I also really like some of the more like obscure ones that are kind of like Sleepy Hollow is kind of in that fairy tale-ish
Yeah.
vibe and the more of the horror adjacent ones. But yeah, Beauty and the Beast is that's the second story in the Rapunzel series is a Beauty and the Beast
Okay.
story. So I'm also in the
That's
same
really cool.
same boat.
Yeah, I love that. Ebony, what about you? Favorite fairy tale?
So the favorite fairy tale that I did was I took a really obscure fairy tale that a lot of people don't know about. I did the Little Match Girl, and
Oh,
I turned it into a very erotic short story. But I just had so much fun with it, and you would not believe how many people are like, "I've never heard of that." I'm like, "Oh man."
yeah. That's really cool though. I really like that you have gotten to be people's like entrance and like the point of entry into discovering that fairy tale and like what it can be. That's really special. So, when it comes to short stories, how would both of you define a short story? Because I feel like some writers have really, really like rigid page numbers or like word counts for how they would define a short story. Is there a way that you personally define a short story?
So when I started writing stories, I was writing them for a publisher, and it did have a specific word count goal. So it was anywhere between 7,000 words and 11,000 words.
Okay, cool. Al, what about you? Same?
Yeah, from what I've been told, like maybe back in the days of yore, where it's like this is what a novella is, this is what a
Yeah.
novelette is. It was anything that was under 10K words was
Okay.
considered a short story, but then if it was under 1,000, that was considered flash fiction,
Yeah.
which is a whole
Fair.
nother beast. And so it's kind of like in that between of like the 1,001 to like 9,999 is kind of like the spot that it's considered a short story, but I think it's anything that can be self-contained in
Yeah.
a little like, under 20 page
Yeah.
one shot kind of thing.
Now, I feel like for me, when I'm writing short stories, I feel like I have a sweet spot, right? Like, I feel like usually around 7K is like when I feel like my story is complete. And I have
Yeah.
some that are shorter and some that are longer, and I've done some flash. Do either of you have like a sweet spot where you're like, this is how long my short story should be? And if not, how can people tell when a short story is at the right length?
So my short stories are they usually end up about 10K.
Okay.
Um, and it's just I feel like I can really nail like a full beginning, middle, and end in
Mhm.
Mhm.
that amount of words
Yeah.
without leaving something out.
Yeah, that's fair. Al, what about you?
Yeah, same. It's kind of that mine tend to be anywhere between the 6 and like 8,000 word
Yeah.
spot. But it's again, it's so long as you can get the entire point across and your
Mhm.
story without it feeling like you're cutting anything out or rushing anything. It's kind of, flexible
Yeah.
with that.
And I feel like that's like so much easier said than done. Like when we're writing a story and we're like trying to condense this wonderful idea into such a small space, it can be really, really tricky. So, what are some things that you do to make your short stories short? I know for me, I like to write the story and then I'll just like, I will recklessly cut and be like, this can be cut, this part can be cut. Like, I like to write long and then condense.
Mm.
Do either of you have a trick for writing short when your inclination could be to go long?
I write as close to the deadline as I can get without missing it. So
Okay.
if I know that I have a short story due by like a certain day, I give myself 2 days to like sit down and really bang it out and just kind of I don't give myself enough time to overthink it.
Mm.
Fair.
I try to give myself enough time where I can give you guys a good story. It makes
Yeah,
sense. It's coherent, but it's not overthought.
that's interesting. Okay. I like it. Al, what about you?
Yeah, again, I think it depends on like what it's for. Because if it's like for an anthology, then you're required to stick to a certain, amount of
Yeah.
word counts. But a lot of it too is that I will just sit down and I will write, and then I'll go back through and do the same thing as you do with edit and add or trim later. But I never really start unless I know kind of like the specific word count that I want to aim
Yeah.
for. And that's what I do with even my like novellas and my full-length novels. And it's just kind of like, okay, so long as I know I have like the constraints of a word count, because that's what I know how many like pages it'll be when it's like printed for my spine or for my cover
Yeah,
artist. It kind of has like I have to put the restrictions on myself to know to not go
for
over
sure.
those sorts of things. But then again, most of them end up being turned into full books anyway. So it's kind of like, well,
Fair. And it's so funny having like that, like imposed, like those like benchmarks of like, I have to hit this, this, and this. And like knowing the bookends of where your story has to go. I just wrote a short story for an anthology, and my story is called The Vampire's Pocket Watch. And I loved writing this story, and it was so fun. And I'm writing it, and I was like, this could be a book. This could definitely be a book. But I was like, no, it's just a short story. It's okay. So I
too much
think
goes
I
into
think that
that.
temptation can be there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But speaking about novels and short stories, what do you think the biggest difference is as far as the writing process goes between a short story and a novel. Because for me, it's definitely, I feel like with a novel, I get like many characters, as many subplots as I want. I can turn it into a series. I can kind of do whatever. But with a short story, I feel like it's a very focused, close look at a very short amount of time, or at least a short amount of space. But what do you both think? What's the biggest difference between writing a novel and writing a short story?
I look at writing a short story as like writing a snapshot. So it's not like it's a full story, but it's not like a full story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Al, what do you think?
I'm trying to think. For me, I definitely think it's more of the fact of I kind of look at my stuff again like, is this a 20-minute sitcom episode? Is this an hour special? Is this a Marvel-sized blockbuster? And I kind of try to base it on like how much this of the story needs to fit into that specific kind of like restrictions for it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had a lot of issues with was I like having big character development stuff, and so I
Mhm.
find the short stories very a good challenge for the writing side to be able to go, oh, I need to learn how to still make these characters interesting in a shorter period of time. And so I feel like my character development has gotten better because I'm able to do it in smaller chunks
Yeah.
that I have when I have a full book. It's definitely I was one of the earliest advices I was told when I was starting to write was if you can master short stories, you can do anything because
That's
it's
interesting.
such a challenging thing to be able to take. Anybody can write a
Yeah.
100,000 word book, but to be able to make something that's super interesting, that's that small, takes a lot of patience and a lot of care and a lot of editing and research, and it's definitely a
Yeah.
challenge, but it's very fun.
Yeah. For sure. Ebony, you look like you have something to add to that.
Oh no, I
Oh,
just like it
okay.
made I was like there, like I
Yeah.
get it.
Well, and I think for me, like, I think you're both totally right. And for me, like, when I'm playing with a character and trying to make them interesting and trying to get to know them with short stories, a lot of that happens off the page, right? Like, I have to get to know the character and know what makes them tick so I can, like, sprinkle that into the story. But what do you both do to get to know your characters and to flesh out a character and to make them interesting?
I, I feel like my characters like they're already fully formed. So when I
Cool.
sit down to write, I'm pretty much telling their like they're telling me what to say, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I feel like that's something you can say to like a room of writers, and we're like,
Uh,
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. We know what you mean. We
Yeah.
feel the same way.
Yeah.
What about you,
Okay.
Elle?
So that was one of the struggles that I had was how do I make these characters interesting when I was first starting? Because my first projects were 200,000 word space operas. So going from that to a 10K short story was really, really
Yeah.
difficult. And one of the things that I was sitting there going, I was like, man, I don't want to keep getting on behind the name or babyname.com and finding new characters and making new characters. So for me, I have the same two characters in every single one of my short stories, and I called them my time hopping, genre swapping power couple. And so I know them personally to the point that it's more of like these are characters that I've been with multiple times. So when
Yeah.
I'm sitting there writing a story that's them in the Wild West, it's the same care as I put it into a sci-fi futuristic story, and it's been fun to kind of like develop them in a smaller aspect of that way to now the point that they're starring in their own novel because I've done 20 stories with the same couple. And that was kind of my little
Amazing.
trick to bypass that of like, oh, because it could be new for somebody else, but they don't need to know that
Yeah.
I've had 20 other stories with these characters. So they feel way more developed than me trying to come up with somebody new on the fly and give them a backstory and things like that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I have not done multiple short stories with the same characters. Ebony, have you done that?
I have not.
Do we need to?
I think we
It's fun.
do.
It's fun. It's really fun.
I think that's really cool. I think that it sounds like a really fun, like, not just an exercise, but like a practice to
Mhm.
like have that. I okay, we may be borrowing that idea.
Yep.
I think it's great because I you can even go on my website and I have like the links to where all of them are published and they're in chronological order by time because I have one that's set in the Wild West and I have one that's set in like old England and so but it's the same characters every time so you just kind of like follow their journey as kind of like the
Yeah.
whole it was what did I call it the Cloud Atlas theory where it's the same lives repeating over and over with different characters and they're the same people with different stories and they have some of the same little pieces of one of them is always like the guardian protector. He's always like a cop or a bodyguard. And the other one's always
Okay.
like a clergyman. And so it kind of has this nice tie-ins, but you can still have a lot of flexibility with it. And that was really helped my perfectionist brain of going like, these characters need to be perfect. And it's like, oh well, I've developed them enough now that they can
Yeah.
be. So
Yeah. Well, and I think, I feel like when we are getting to know our characters, some writers really struggle with like the personality of a character and figuring out how they're going to be flawed or how they're going to be strong in certain ways. How do you both balance that? Like, how do you decide, oh, my character is going to be really good at sword fighting, but is kind of obnoxious and has a hard time making friends? Like, how do you build your characters in that way?
I usually take people that I know in real life, take attributes from them, and I put them into my characters. So,
Ebony.
like, I mean, I've definitely had people that I've known from like high school send me a message like, "Hey, are you talking about me?" Like, yeah, I am. So
I actually am.
it's totally you. Um, but I love that my friends that I've known like my entire life can see bits and pieces of them in the characters that I've developed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and I feel like so as writers, we are like professional liars, right?
yeah.
But the best lies are always like mixed with the truth. And so I feel like that probably strengthens your writing a lot. Okay. Al, what about you? How do you make your characters imperfect or perfect, as it were?
um I make their lives miserable. And then, and
Are you
then
a little mean?
I am a little mean. I the amount of people I've had message me going, I hate you for what you did to X, Y, and Z for the things that I've done. I have a book that I killed the dog in the first 3 pages. Like I'm very brutal, but I
Yeah.
definitely give them the, the more realistic like, oh, they are shown to have their flaws and be usually pretty developed into their relationship or the situation that they're in. I'm one of those, I'm
Oh,
going to drop you into the middle of the zombie apocalypse, or I'm going to drop you into the middle of their tenure in deep space. And so for me, it kind of helps sitting there going, okay, they're already in the middle of this. How are they reacting to something that is their normal already? And then kind of working backwards from there, um,
absolutely.
which helps a lot.
Okay, that's cool. I like that too. I feel like creating the characters is like so much fun, right? And I'm definitely one of those writers that loves like the whole process, like the idea, like the physical writing, all of it, and the selling. So that's my next question is when it comes to selling a short story, what do you do? How do you like to sell your short stories? For me, I have sold short stories to magazines and I've sold them to like publishers who have them in anthologies and that sort of thing. What about you two? What does selling a short story look like?
for me, most of my short stories have started out as anthology pieces.
Oh,
And then when I get the rights back, I find a really pretty cover and I hate myself because I have to come up with a blurb now. And and then I self-publish it. So,
yeah. So not a big blurb person, huh?
oh God, no.
No.
Okay. I feel like that's like everyone's favorite pain point. Like we all are just like, what is this story about? Like, I
Right.
don't know.
But I
Yes.
think it's so much harder with a short story because it's so hard not to tell the entire short story in the blurb.
Fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of like repackaging a story. Like Absolutely. That's really great advice. Like when you get your rights back, if you have sold a story, absolutely you can self-publish it. I've done that too, especially if a story is related to like a series.
Hmm.
Because I have a series called The Fablestone Clan, which is about dragon shapeshifters. And I wrote a short story that was like, it included some side characters, which was great because my readers got like an extra story.
Mhm.
I felt like I was writing fan fiction of my own work.
Yep.
And also it like funneled people into the series who weren't already familiar with that.
Yep.
Al, how do you like to sell a short story?
I do a lot of mine either end up on Kickstarter and I do
Mhm.
like little zine type of things. I do I have a couple of my publishers. That's actually how I got started with them before they picked up my book
Cool.
was actually they were doing the short story type of stuff. I do a lot of charity anthologies because I think
Yeah.
those are really fun. And then I do what again the same when I get done with them, I either have the zines, which are great for like events and stuff like, hey, you're new to my writing, get this little tiny story to kind of get introduced to who I am, or I post it on like my Patreon of like, oh, it's Halloween and I need scary stories. I have a bunch of them left over that like their time in the anthology is done that I can kind of like post that as extra content and things like that too. So,
That's cool. Yeah, I like that too. And I like that it seems like between the three of us, there's actually quite a bit of variety, which is pretty cool.
mhm.
I like that when it comes to publishing and writing, there are so many options. It really isn't like just one path.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So how did you get into publishing short stories specifically when it comes to selling them? Or maybe a better question is, how should people look for an opportunity to sell a short story?
I think that anthologies, whether it's a charity anthology, whether it's a anthology for a profit, I think those are a great way to introduce yourself and your writing to new readers and also to publishers and
Yep.
magazine and stuff like that. It's how I got started. I started writing for a million and one different anthologies. I was literally releasing like maybe every other week with a different
Wow.
anthology. Um, and I just kept like rapid releasing them. And then when I got the rights back, I'm like, hi, like if you didn't want to take a chance on the anthology, now you can just have me, you know?
Yep.
So
Yeah. And readers want that.
yeah.
Readers want to take a chance on you.
Yeah.
Al, what do you think?
Yeah, same thing. I got my start when I was back in the heyday of writing Twitter when it wasn't as messy as it is now. That was where I found most of my publishers and
Yeah,
through
cool.
anthology calls and magazines and like online zines. I think a bunch of my first ones were in like a charity zine that every month we picked a different charity to
Cool.
donate to. And so, and then again, my first Kickstarters were all for short stories, which helped me
Yeah.
then get my, self-established on there too, which helped me publish my debut through that. So, but
That's cool.
again, you can publish stuff on your own website and
Yeah.
through Substacks and there's always some sort of charity anthology going on that they love having people come in. I did one that I want to say it was 200,000 words worth of monster romance short stories for it ended up being a
Okay.
three
Solid.
volume thing because it was just a whole bunch of people wanted to get together to like
Yeah.
raise money for, children's literacy. And so we all just
Yeah.
got together and wrote a bunch of monster romance stuff and the whole group was on
Cool.
Facebook. So, you know, there's
Yeah.
tons of options.
Well, and I love like, let me know what you both think, but I love anthologies because when there's a call for submissions, there's like a topic or a theme.
Hmm.
And for me, like, yeah, like I love that. So, like, The Vampire's Pocket Watch, the story I just wrote, the theme was this time next year. And so your story had to have a 1 year gap. So the characters could either break up and meet up a year later,
That's
or maybe they
fun.
have a meet cute and then meet a year later. So my story was a vampire goes into a watch repair shop to get his watch repaired. But because he doesn't have his watch, he loses track of time and comes back a year later.
That's
Oh, that's
fun.
cute.
Thank you. It was so fun. I loved writing it. Do either of you have like a favorite theme that you've like covered in a short story, whether it's for an anthology or something else?
So I actually did three different anthologies where each one of them featured a man of faith. Uh,
Okay.
and each of the stories are completely different. but they each touch on different themes. So in one of them, the man of faith has to deliver news to a family that their oldest son was murdered. Um, the second one, man of faith is listening to confessions, and he hears a confession from a teenage girl who hid her pregnancy and abandoned her baby at a fire station. And then the third one is where a man of faith is a hippy dippy cult leader, and he thinks the end of the world is coming, and he's trying to get everybody prepared for the rapture. So I think those were
Interesting.
like the most funnest ones that I've done. They
Yeah.
were all so different, but they were so connected to each other that when I got the rights back to each of the stories, I actually bundled them and together. So it's actually one book with three different stories featuring a man of faith.
That's really interesting. And yeah, I feel like anytime you have like that broader topic of like religion or something you're passionate about, like that can really make a really big difference in your stories too.
Yeah.
Al, what about you? Favorite themes?
Um, there was one, oh, hello. There was one that was a gothic um fairy tale horror erotica called
Okay,
where
cool.
you had to rewrite a classic myth or legend as a like horror erotica, and it couldn't have a happy ending, which I thought was a
Okay,
really fun one. And I didn't get
yeah,
into that anthology, but the short story I ended up publishing, and it's been one of like my best-selling short stories. And the other one was an anthology called We Can Always Tell, which is a trans horror erotica
cool.
collection. And so it was one of those, every story featured a trans character committing wrongs and, having fun. And my story was about a couple who go to have some birthday fun in a cemetery in a mausoleum, and a cult
Okay,
shows up. So it was very fun. It was
what
very,
a
very fun
twist.
anthology. So
Okay, okay. I like the variety. That's really fun. Speaking of variety, when it comes to readers, have you both found that there's a lot of crossover between readers who enjoy novels and readers who enjoy short stories, or do readers tend to stay in their own lanes?
So I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't know if I've truly found my core group of readers yet.
Okay, fair.
Um, I do have a group of people who will read anything that I publish, and I am forever grateful.
Yeah,
But I don't know if it's because they truly like my writing or they truly like my personality. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it's I don't know. I'm hoping
yeah.
it's a combination of both.
I bet it is.
mhm.
But I don't know. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to find a tribe, I guess.
You know what, though? I think that's really cool. And I think the important thing is that you are kicking ass, you're creating cool art, you're working on these stories. And I think it's really awesome that you are attracting those readers
Yeah.
who care about what you're doing. That's cool. Al, what do you think?
I Most of my readers only get my short stories after they've already gone through the rest of my catalog. Um,
Okay.
it's kind of like an, oh, we need more, and so that you have to run your
Yeah.
website and get them, which is great, and I appreciate it. But I have noticed that I have a lot of friends who are short story people and poets. And the
Yeah.
poetry group really likes the short story stuff. They're the ones that are all into the anthologies. And I think it's definitely that shorter, like, story, bite-sized kind of thing. Because even
Yeah.
my, like, horror erotica collection, which is a bunch of different individual standalone stories, sells to a completely different crowd of people than the people who buy my regular books. And it's the people who end
Yeah.
up liking the poetry and the smaller stuff. And so I definitely think there's crossover, but it just kind of depends on where everyone is kind of entering the zones at.
That's really interesting. I have published several of my short stories online and I'm very clear in this is a short story.
Yeah.
This is 20 pages long or whatever. But I had published a short story and somebody gave me a 1 star review and in all caps they were like, "This is a short story." I don't like short stories. But I like thought I was going a little crazy and I reread the description and it was definitely like, this is a short story. So, oh, sorry, Ebony, I didn't mean to interrupt
Oh,
you.
no. I was picking my glasses up. They were sliding.
Oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, so I think it's really interesting to kind of figure out, like, I think all readers are different and we really can't lump them into groups. But I also have found sometimes people just want a novel and
Yeah,
sometimes people just want something a little more bite-sized.
definitely.
Oh, all right. This has been a wonderful talk. Before we say goodbye, what's the most important thing for writers to remember if they want to write a short story? One piece of advice.
Don't overthink it. Just have fun with it. Don't, because when you start thinking, it's when more words come and more ideas come. And it
Yeah,
goes from being a short story to a novella to a full length. So just, just spit it out. Like,
just spit it out. Just do it. I love that. That's great advice. Thank you. Oh,
I definitely say just have fun with it because it's one of those that you don't have to have a lot of an insane amount of structure or ideas. You can just kind of start and go and see what
yeah.
happens. And it's a really great writing challenge and a place to start. Like I got most of my stuff got started from just like taking a theme or a prompt and going, can I make something in, short story with
Cool.
this and just, enjoy the process of it.
Yeah, I love that. Don't overthink and enjoy the process. I think those are both great pieces of advice. All right, friends, this has been really wonderful. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm really excited that we got to talk about short stories, and I can't wait to see you both again.
thank you.
You
Bye, everybody.